I'm Richard Downs, founder of IGLU and currently CEO. IGLU is an online retailer of two specialist products, ski and cruise. Sometimes I still feel like a bit of an outsider in the travel industry because I've only been in it 14 years, and I started IGLU on the basis of being a frustrated ski consumer and really actually understanding a bit more, I believe, about the ski product than a lot of people that were selling it at the time, mainly in the high street. And that got me thinking, together with a few other technology trends, about how ski holidays and specialist holidays in general could be sold much more efficiently and effectively online. So, and I don't normally like to admit this, but I started off as an accountant and then a banker. So, you know, I'm happy to take both those, that on the chin. But quickly moved into travel, obviously, and actually that kind of outside looking in perspective helped me, because I believe I wasn't kind of shackled, if you like, in this is the way that we always do things, or what I heard at the time in '98 when I was setting up IGLU, of people will never buy holidays online, you must be mad. Well, they may well be right, I could be mad, but actually they were wrong about people buying online. Well, to start IGLU, I came off the back of a 2-year MBA program at London Business School. So typically, I mean, universities in general are seeing this now, but business schools back then, you know, sort of 14, 15 years ago, were used to charging high fees to students. So you come off the back with a lot of debt, a lot of personal debt. However, fortunately, the business school was setting up a seed and angel fund, which I was able to benefit from, that helped me set up IGLU through its first season. And from there on, I was lucky enough to get some venture capital from Barclays Ventures. And so the kind of the financing angle was by necessity done by, well, initially some credit cards from me, and then very quickly into seed and angel financing. So IGLU is an online retailer, so that means we tour operators or cruise lines create the product and we sell it, and that's our kind of 100% focus. So in ski, we, if you like, sit in front of, you know, the kind of the 80 or so ski tour operators in the UK, that some may be relatively generous within the specialist market, relatively generous across Europe or North America, or there may be some operators that are focused on individual resorts, such as Chamonix, for example. And we help all operators, both in the early booking cycle and in the kind of the lates and indeed distressed cycle of the season, really. So we started that in ski, and in 2005 we were lucky enough to find or stumble across the cruise market, and we felt that the cruise market, indeed the customers, although they were a different customer set, were just beginning to get online, and in the way that in '97, '98 those 60-year-old cruise customers weren't. In 2005, the kind of 57-year-old cruise customers, so the age come down, were starting to get online, and we felt that was about the right time to leverage some of our learning from ski, albeit at a target different customer base, but to take some of that learning and infrastructure and target at the cruise market. There was a huge amount of learning for us, for me in particular, for the organisation as a whole, to understand, and it took quite a number of years to get that going. But you know, I'm obviously very pleased now that we're kind of #1 in cruise retail online, and as we are in ski as retailers. So we've achieved a kind of double #1. In terms of online positioning in both of those two markets. Well, our customer base in ski are kind of, I mean, we sit across the whole market, so our customer base in ski reflects the ski market. And so they're the, you know, kind of 18 to 21-year-old boarders, as well as the, you know, 25, 26-year-old skiers. They're the new to ski and the experienced people that have, you know, had a family and want to go back and take their kids and enable their kids to ski at a young age, which they may or may not have had the opportunity to do, but found that they love it. So the age range, is really up until, in the main, 35, 40-year-old, but it's quite a long tail. We have 60-year-old skiing, etc. I think 50 is the new 40, which is the new 30, and there are some very active 50-year-old skiing that have skied many years with us, and some since we started. So it's a very active sport, but it's a sport where people are very passionate about and want to do again. And if indeed over the last 2 or 3 years they may have skipped a year through economics or uncertainty, that just creates a burning desire to get back. So it's a very, very specific group who are usually passionate about what they do and passionate to share that experience with their kids and with their friends. So that's our ski customer base. Our cruise is varied, but with a different mean, I guess. I mean, they're kind of, there are some young families, and that's a growing element with some of the new ships coming on that are targeting families, but in their main they're sort of 40 to 65-year-olds, the average age being 57 across the industry. Our customer age is slightly lower than that, being our intersection with the overall base is probably at the lower age, more likely to be online kind of customer base. So, our customer base is sort of 48-ish compared to the 57 on average. So, whilst we do have some octogenarians, they're fewer for us than in the main. Trends that we see in the marketplace are undoubtedly, in ski, it's continued use of online and tablets and mobile devices, and in cruise it's still that kind of early stage channel shifting from kind of retail bricks and mortar to an online experience. Those are probably the biggest trends, particularly technology trends. And in terms of booking profile of customers booking later, more discerning customers needing a bit more hand-holding in the process. Those are the principal trends, I guess, and obviously the historic things that may go or have created some of that is a toughened economic environment and some cautiousness around the kind of the euro situation. Well, the euro situation, I mean, the situation is kind of one for concern, and whilst it's been and there's no easy solution. I mean, for the UK outbound tourist industry, a kind of a stronger euro is generally better for both companies and consumers. So we have seen some appreciation recently in the sterling euro rates, and that's favourable, and hopefully tour operators have locked into some significant gain or underpinned any downside risk there, and there may well be some upside if the sterling euro gets above 130. That will be great. I'm not sure it will in this year, but it's still 124, 125 is a lot better than the 110 or the near parity that consumers are experiencing after kind of commission in the airport. So we've moved a long way from 2008 when near parity was a consumer experience over that Christmas 2008 period, which was tough. But so we're in that sense, purchases bought overseas, like ski lift passes, for example, are 25% cheaper now than before, and at the same time, some resorts have got a bit more competitive or trimmed back some of their inflationary tendencies that had crept in kind of the bull years. So we're seeing, so the euro at the moment is in a much better place, although it's fragile and clearly has some volatility around it, and it just may be that volatility may be one reason why customers might be just booking later to see sterling euro versus the Swiss franc, for example, in skiing, whether Switzerland or France experience, or indeed in North America versus Europe, Mediterranean cruise, for example. Our customers are telling us that they're really looking for value. Ultimately, they're kind of cross-checking things. They're They want something extra, kind of 5-star for 4-star prices, or 4 for 3. You know, it's not necessarily they're looking for cheap all the time. They are just looking for something. They're a little bit thrown into, you know, both ski and cruises are you know, I think both offer different value, but they are still a discretionary spend, and customers are looking for somebody to, and companies to kind of empathise with them a bit in a toughened economic environment, to say, you know, we really welcome your custom, and you know what, this year we'll put in, you know, a kind of midday package lunch for skiers or something that just recognises that for example, some of the in-resort cost for skiing is an expensive component, and they can go some way to minimising some of that cost. I think the biggest challenges for the industry are, whilst we're lucky enough to operate in a what's become, I think, a necessity now in terms of a holiday. It's a discretionary, of course, at one level, but at another level, people work very hard these days. I think, particularly in the UK, we do work long hours, and you know, we've just got to have time off. Otherwise, you know, I think we'll explode. You know, and you know, our kids do have time off work, and you've got to do something with them. And what better way to go overseas and in a different environment, switch off and disconnect if that's possible, and enjoy that. So, you know, though that sort of experience is I think for most people is a necessity, and if they miss it, they'd only probably miss it once. And so yes, we're lucky, but at the same time, you know, the macroeconomics aren't great. It is fragile in the UK GDP perspective and in the Eurozone generally. So, you know, I think those are undoubtedly threats. From a bonding perspective, I don't think we're going to achieve clarity for the consumer. I think we're still in a kind of wrong place, really, or imperfect place, where there are so many conflicts around between, you know, the status quo protectionism, or the it doesn't affect me, so, you know, I'll keep it from the door. And indeed the ramifications for liability or not. It's a very confusing landscape for the consumer, and we've just, it's a distraction. It's a distraction for all of us in terms of our systems and processes, what we need to explain to the consumer, and sometimes the consumer is quite confused, particularly I think around the airlines also selling accommodation and finding out that may not be covered. That's that extreme to a fully protected holiday, which we mostly sell. For example, they're miles apart in terms of protection, but the consumer may not see any difference between them. So we've a long way to go, and Flight Plus is a partial movement. Some might say in the right direction, but there's still a lot further to go down those tracks. Most of our customers book via the telephone. And a vast majority will have done their research online. So we're seeing a more discerning customer base who likes to delineate what they want more carefully, and their timing of booking more carefully. We're absolutely seeing that, and that may be a knock-on effect from some of the macroeconomic effects in the marketplace, and possibly a bit of caution or uncertainty in consumers' mind. But they are taking more time to research and to look. And however, once they've made their mind up, they're very, they've made their mind up, and are very certain about what they want to book. So they're using the consultancy element of our call centre, which are, what we like to think is a very highly trained customer service team to hold the customer's hand, to convince them, to educate them where necessary, to encourage them ultimately to book. If there was one issue that I think is both travel specific and actually more generalist for the economy, it's around air passenger duty, and this nonsense of this being singled out, almost it feels, to be taxing our customers in the belief that will be a net revenue gainer, where in reality all the evidence I've seen is that it deters customers, and you end up taxing a smaller base, and it's self-defeatist. So if we can convey that message with enough authority to the government at large, then I think that we can all be winners, consumers and travel companies and the economy. So that's probably the biggest thing in these kind of straitened times that I think that we can address as individuals and as a body, corporates and as a wider industry. I think highlights for me are intertwined with highlights for IGLU essentially, and and therefore what I mean by that is the team and the behind it. Entrepreneurship is a team sport and it's all about the people. So to the extent I can get some credit, it might be to putting the right team or attracting the right team in place. But that aside, it's around milestones that we've achieved for IGLU in terms of I guess 7 or 8 years ago in terms of cash flow positivity and profitability, and then becoming the largest online retailer in ski, and we think over the last year the largest online retailer in cruise, and we've got a long way to go. We've got some way to go to being the largest overall retailer of cruise, on or offline, but we think we've achieved it in terms of online retail number one, and that's another significant milestone for us. So those were what I would kind of single out as our achievements. My favourite, if I can pick 2 favourite destinations for me, one is in ski, and I'd say that's La Rosière. It's a great resort for families where the final resort slopes down to the chalets at the bottom are relatively gentle, so you can take young kids. Relatively, it doesn't take long for them to kind of outpace you, but at the start you can take them back to the chalet, and that's great. And at the same time, go across to Italy and sample some real coffee and a different experience, all in one kind of extended ski pass. So that's a great resort for me that's also slightly lesser known. Which I would certainly recommend. In terms of cities, Barcelona is very close to my heart for more reasons than one. It's a great city in itself with lots of culture and experience, and in addition, it's a great cruise port as well. If I can throw that in, it's the largest embarkation port in Europe. It offers many things it's a very efficient, modern port that customers can get on. They can also enjoy the city prior to their embarkation or disembarkation. So that would be my best kind of city break destination certainly in Europe.